New question. The member from Halton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Economic Development. Economic development is such a remote concept in this province that I have trouble with it. Premier, Minister, in 2005,
Member from Halton.
Thank you. Minister, in 2005, I put an Opposition Day motion before this House called for an immediate plan to deal with manufacturing job losses in Ontario. The resolution called for meaningful job action in hard-hit places like Hamilton, Welland, Guelph, Windsor and other Ontario manufacturing towns. The resolution passed that day in 2005, but the resolve of your government failed. Since then, we have seen nearly 300,000 manufacturing jobs lost across the province, with a large number added this week. And today, we hear about 1,200 more jobs lost in Windsor, one of those hard-hit cities that the Premier and yourself promised to protect in 2005. Minister, yesterday you said you were not responsible. The Premier said he was not responsible for job losses in Hamilton. You will probably say that you can't do anything about the 1,200 workers laid off today in Windsor. If this is your stance, Minister, what is it that you can do for the hard-hit people of Ontario?
Minister.
Well, thank you, Speaker. And the member raised the events of yesterday in Windsor, and obviously the people affected who were on that third shift at Chrysler. Very, very difficult time. It was anticipated since last August, but that doesn't make it any easier for those workers. It was actually one of the last plants in the continent in which there was 3 shifts, and obviously we're hoping that that second shift will have enough production that some of those people will be able to continue to work. We also, with respect to U.S. Steel, see the impacts of the drop in auto sales. What does the government do? Well, probably the best contribution that provincial and federal governments can make for the auto industry is the work that we're doing to try and create and support a viable auto industry. Probably the best thing we can do for the steel industry is to create more demand and increase supply by providing the assistance to the auto industry, and that's exactly what the provincial government is doing right now.
Supplementary.
Boy, that's faint hope for the people in the manufacturing business in Ontario. Minister, you have 2 ministers in your cabinet from Windsor. You would think that they might urge you to come up with a plan to save these jobs. The Minister of Trade is probably too busy spending taxpayers' dollars in fancy hotels overseas. The Minister of Finance would rather be in Toronto creating a record budget for the province of Ontario. Had you listened in 2005, the people at Windsor and Chrysler and Windsor might still have jobs, but you frittered away the good times. You set us up for disaster in your tax and spend policies, and the continuing inaction is making things worse. Minister, tell the people of Ontario and tell the people in Windsor, Hamilton, Guelph, Oshawa, Kitchener, Welland, and all those other great Ontario manufacturing towns. Under your leadership, Minister, is this the end of manufacturing in Ontario?
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's thanks to the members from Windsor that, in fact, there is a future in Windsor and there is a future in the manufacturing industry in the province of Ontario. Mr. Speaker, there is no way in the history of this province you have had 2 MPPs in Windsor and all the MPPs representing Windsor from this party who have fought for their communities harder than these MPPs that you referred to. The Minister of International Trade is traveling around the world to bring investments into all parts of this province, but you can bet she works very hard to bring investments into Windsor. The Minister of Finance making investments in the advanced manufacturing strategy and through the Next Generation of Jobs Fund has seen literally millions of dollars invested directly into companies, leveraging hundreds of millions of dollars of investment that creates jobs in their communities and communities across this province. So don't tell me that we don't have the best members for Windsor, because we do.
Supplementary.
Thank you, Speaker. If the future of Ontario is based on what Windsor is doing today, it's got the highest unemployment level in Ontario, and Ontario is headed down the wrong road, if that's your answer. Minister, you pretend to understand the severities of these issues, but your actions or inactions do not fill me with confidence. Instead of dealing with the big questions that your Premier talked about over Christmas, you have reverted to your usual routine of ignoring the economy again. Instead of actually dealing with issues like red tape, high taxes, competitiveness and productivity, your government would rather talk about young offenders housing, cosmetic surgery, swarthy subjects surely, but not right now. Right now, we need a plan. Right now, we need leadership. Right now, we need some reprieve for the people of manufacturing cities of Ontario. Minister, will you commit today to a serious change in your economic approach? Do you realize that you can make a difference if you try?
Minister.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, in fact, Mr. Speaker, the member talks about a plan. It's the plan that the member voted against. It's the plan that put into place investments in the advanced manufacturing sector that led to a loan commitment of $10 million to Roxel Inc. Where's Roxel Inc., Mr. Speaker? It's in Milton. The member who asked the question. An investment and a loan commitment of $3 million to Procter & Gamble Incorporated of where? In Brockville, in Leeds, Grenville, Mr. Speaker. We also have investments in Coolitron in Brantford for the MPP for Bryant. We have investments in Oxford and Cambridge to Toyotsu Canada. Speaker, this government's economic strategy, amongst other things, involves direct investment of industry funds into businesses. It's something that member calls corporate welfare, and this government calls economic investment to allow and jumpstart companies so that they can jump ahead of their competitors. We stand for that economic stimulus, and you voted against it.